This review was written a little more than a year after the game's initial release. For 7 years, my fealty has been to Forza, scarcely deviating except for flirtations in modern open worlds or at physical arcades, and with friends who look at Forza the way a raccoon looks at garbage, I didn't have a lot of incentive to. But I wanted to try something different, especially a game that enabled a more laid-back cruising style of racing. And what better setting to do so than an arcade racer set in Miami? Need for Speed Heat caught my attention with its bright lights and flashy colors, because I'm apparently living a double life as a moth. Heat takes place in a fictionalized Miami, a metropolis of neon-lined high-rises and historic Art Deco architecture, a major center of tourism and Latin American immigration, luxury yachts, which is a bit tautological if you think about it, and of course pearly beaches dotted with palms, quite fitting for a place named Palm City. He plays a street racer who earns money through sanctioned road and rally events by day, and earns street cred through street racing and evading the police by night. But how are you going to make a name for yourself if no one can tell you apart from Grandma's old Toyota Corolla? Well, there are no Toyos in the game, so we can start there. After receiving your choice of one free car in the beginning, you can head to the dealership and choose from a fair selection of popular models from popular manufacturers. Once you choose, you can customize the body of your car, with parts like spoilers and canards having no effect on in-game performance. You can also add some purely aesthetic aftermarket parts, like underglow, tire smoke, and more. Liveries can be custom-made, and for those with less patience or artistic ability like me, there's an array of not just shapes, but art that you can layer to make your own designs. Or you can look for another user's custom designs through a completely unorganized menu with no in-game search function. You can even customize your own street racing avatar, also using menus organized like the BOGO rack at a box store. Should you choose, you have these 4 primary options to express your personality. I personally always love having these options in games. Tuning was skeletal and bound to how much traction you wanted on tarmac or dirt, and unfortunately not useful for fine-tuning your specific driving style, since the game assumes you'll just be prioritizing its namesake, Need for Speed. But a prioritization on speed, infrequent obstacles, wide roads, and somewhat stiff steering culminated in the inability to successfully integrate real-life track design and racing challenges in a meaningful way. For example, downshifting and crashing are disincentivized. Then any S's need to be loose and obstacle-less. But a loose obstacle-less S is just a straight, and with the fastest route being a straight line, this is the ideal way to tackle one. But also not really a strategy when there were never any hurdles to doing so in the first place. To facilitate your need for speed, you have nitrous tanks that give massive speed boosts, top-of-the-line parts you can unlock through purchase in special races, a God-given talent to bulldoze over nearly everything, Texas long straights, and a convenient drift button, all of which keep the momentum high, making it a fast-paced and carefree racer. But this also means the racing can largely be summarized as throttle 24/7, causing every race to carry the undertone of a drag race, my least favorite kind of racing. Then ultimately, the difference between the feeling of driving a truck and a sports car became anchored on the roleplay in your head, undercutting any experimentation in racing strategy. While still maintaining the straightforwardness of an arcade racer, I wish they had incorporated more elements that made navigating the tracks more complicated than just going fast. The open world can be played in 2 distinct ways, night or day. Time unfortunately does not progress naturally, but you can move between times of day after returning to the garage, or if it's daytime, by clicking your stick while on the map. During the night, players get a reputation boost, which is used for leveling up to unlock new parts. But when the sun dips below the horizon, the stars come out to play, competing in legal street events and activities to gain heat levels, which gives them a multiplier to earned reputation so long as they don't get caught. Evading the police can be tricky in low-level cars. They did some interesting police maneuvers on me, but despite their complaining over the radio about stock parts, they had no trouble keeping up until I eventually acquired high-performance cars and learned a few tricks for evading capture. You're on your own out there, as the game doesn't really instill any sort of advice for racing or evading police. You'll have to explore and find all the little alleys and jumps you can use and test them out yourself. This can be tedious at low performance levels, and eventually I found myself catalyzed into grinding for high levels, so I wouldn't have to care about the process of evading the police anymore. And there's no fast travel or unstuck button for night gameplay, so try not to get into any sort of tricky situations with the police, or of your own incompetence. While I often sought out night because I wanted those vaporwave Miami vibes, with neon lights and low-fidelity music trickling into my car, I grew fatigued by constantly having to monitor my radar. On the contrary, during the day, police couldn't care less about anything you do, barring you scratching the paint on the cruiser. Players get a bonus to money earned through sanctioned road racing and rally events, and don't have to worry about getting arrested when they do impressive stunts like jumping off of random ramps around the world, or taking a speed trap too fast. Being able to race during the day and night added a lot of implied characterization about how your character funds the criminal behavior. But I wish that there was a bit more consistent logic to the way the world functioned with some sanctioned events at night, and police who didn't get blackout drunk before going on patrol every day. The world really looked quite fantastic, especially in the city. There are a lot of really well-made features, though true flavor is rare. It is detailed, but not terribly exciting, and covered by a thick film grain that diminishes the impact of the colors. The tracks are spread throughout the map with a variation of sprints and circuits with different technical elements and artistic focus, but many of them become monotonous as you descend similar mountain switchbacks toward the city lights, or traverse a relatively flat circuit around an unremarkable part of the city or countryside. Landmarks and other flavor around the world were so tucked away in the design that I seldom noticed them while racing or exploring. Somewhere in the map is a lighthouse, a rocket ship, cargo ships, and other fun and interesting features that are infrequently utilized as the center point of races, and when they are, you can barely see them without craning your camera up to look. Most details devolve into flecks in your rearview mirror as you speed by at over 150 miles an hour. Figuratively speaking, it's actually no cockpit view, but everything does get a little blobby the faster you go, and it makes it difficult to appreciate the world space unless you scoot around to get all the collectibles. But those are really just irrelevant map fillers, so I can't imagine most players do that. At the point where the player wants a break from racing, without necessarily taking a break from the game, they can drive around the game space doing jump, drift, and speed challenges, or grabbing various collectibles like billboards, graffiti, or neon tube flamingos. Or they can complete driving stories, either Anna's main campaign missions, or brief race challenges with the characters Roshini, Dex, and Wayne. But none of these activities presents the player with any sort of challenge or obstacle they must overcome. Often they don't encourage the player to become a better driver or try new approaches. The game never really imparts any techniques onto the player. Jumps and speed zones are readily defeated by high-performance cars. The drift guy, Wayne, just teaches you once, and then he puts you on a random track and says stuff like, "This track throws everybody off their game. No one beats it." But he doesn't explain why. Sharp corners? Steep elevation changes? It doesn't test you or have interesting challenges or dynamics. It's just another course for the sake of a course that he apparently says is difficult as his attempt at some sort of reverse psychology. There was one shining accomplishment, though, one I wish Forza would incorporate into their Horizon series, though technically already exists in motorsport: time trials. I loved the tricky tracks and trying to set a good lap time against my friends and crewmates. The campaign missions are a great way to enhance your inner roleplay as a street racer and instill a sense of criminality and risk to the actions I was taking. But the action sequences that I expected to be the height of suspense and rebelliousness were hardly different from just engaging in a police chase while roaming the open world, and cartoonish villains deflated the gravity of every situation. All said and done, the simplicity of the mechanics, combined with the simplicity of its aesthetic and thematic delivery, created a very ordinary atmosphere and often flat emotional experience. I thought it needed more color and dynamism that represented the youthful energy endemic to street racing. I was hoping that the street racing theme of the game would lead to more destruction and adventure, but it came off as a normal racing game where you happen to drive over the sidewalk sometimes, and police hate that, but only at night. Overall, Need for Speed Heat was a fun arcade racer with uncomplicated gameplay and heated police chases where you can zip around vanilla Miami. Hopefully next time we'll get some key lime.